tried to produce a different view of what development was about. And so they saw development as being about well-being, and this notion of freedoms, which comes directly from Sen's work, flourishing, which we'll go into a bit more, about empowerment and agency. So more that was about the individual, but in a way that was trying to get away from the neoliberal and to a more kind of classically liberal, we need to think about how individuals develop, and with a strong justice strand. And so this clearly has developed theoretically much further through this kind of nice mixture of the UNDP producing reports every year on this and producing Human Development Index, and on the other hand people like Sen and Nussbaum developing a theoretical approach to these issues. And I'm going to come back to that issue and how it relates to education and training in a couple of minutes. So this final section of what I want to say is, well, where do we go as trying to think about the relationship to vocational education, training and development? The first place where we could go is to think about capabilities. Now, there's been quite a lot of work about education and capabilities, but there's been very little about vocational education, training and capabilities, although we do have two PhD students working on this who are world leaders in this field, aren't you? So Aurora and Leslie, who are right at the cutting edge of this work, because it is very early. So how would we start to think about vocational education and training and capabilities? Well, the first thing I might do is quote Maclean. Well, Walker and Maclean, to be strictly accurate, is in the work that Monica and Melanie did about pro-poor professionalism in South Africa. They came up with this list, and now, as Monica will insist quite rightly, this is purely an exemplar of a set of capabilities that could be developed. But when I start to think about vocational education, training and capabilities, I think it's quite useful to use this as an example of what you could construct, taking the professional end of vocational. So what are the kind of things that people would value vocational education and training for? So I think that's the starting point that this work helps us to get towards. Then I think the work that, as say, Leslie and Aurora doing is very important here. In taking this further, Leslie's been using this notion of a capability to aspire in kind of early formulations of the thesis, and both trying to understand what vocational education and training might look from a capabilities perspective, and importantly, as Aurora was saying in her seminar a month or so ago,